Well, greetings and welcome once again to the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm Steve Fredland. I'm your host for the podcast, and I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for your feedback that you guys are giving. It's fantastic. In this episode, I sit down with World Series of Poker bracelet winner John Redding, and we talk a little bit about his background, his experiences, and also a little bit of poker strategy as we get into some of the concepts that he prioritizes during his play. I want to also give a quick shout out to the Free Poker Network. The ability to play in bars for free and work on your game and ultimately work your way through the bar, the region, the state, and even nationals to play in the World Series of Poker is a pretty cool concept, and I want to invite you all to check that out. Free games, way to work on your game, way to meet some great people, so check that out as well. And also just a quick plug for the All In for Africa 6. This is a charity poker tournament that benefits the Against Malaria Foundation. It's something affiliated with the nonprofit that I've been running since 2009. I've had a chance to go to Rwanda 4 times as part of this. We've raised about $1.6 million in our 7 years, including about $50,000 from the poker community through the All In for Africa effort. So I want to invite you to check that out. April 1st, Canterbury Park. All of the details are on the Canterbury Park website. But we've got about 50% of the money that comes in goes to charity, 50% goes to the prize pool. But we also have at least 40 bounties that we'll be playing, and that boosts up the prize pool, and in the past it's actually been an overlay. So we'll have bounties with prizes that range across the board, including, some as much as $200 cash or more. So it's a pretty cool tournament, super fun time. Had a lot of people say that's their favorite tournament of the year. We run it twice a year. We do it in the spring at Canterbury Park and in the fall at Running Aces. So a good time. So if you have any questions on that, check out the Canterbury Park website, get a hold of me, and we can answer any questions that you might have. So with that, I want to invite you to enjoy the conversation that I recently had with World Series of Poker bracelet winner John Redding. All right, well, it is my pleasure to be sitting here with John Redding. John, say hi to the folks.
Hi, everybody.
They couldn't see you wave, but I'm sure they felt it.
Oh, yeah.
In their hearts.
I tried to put that out there just to make everybody feel welcome.
Nice. Well, appreciate you taking the time to do this deal. I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot going on, but you carved out some time for us, and appreciate that. It's not very often I get to sit down with the World Series of Poker bracelet winner and talk poker. Actually, never. So
no problem.
So anyway, so thanks for that. We talked a little bit about where we're trying to go with this thing, but I just want to start with, all right. So you're a poker player. That's That's how people know you that aren't your friends and relatives. You're just a guy that plays poker and you've had some success. But
sure.
Tell us a little bit, like, what do you play? Like, how often do you play? What are the buy-ins that you play? Like, where is your niche? Cash tournaments, just hold 'em.
So, should I start like where I kind of started off?
Sure. Tell us your story if you'd like.
Sure. I will explain the story then. Early on, I really didn't have too much support. I actually had the exact opposite. Kind of people tried to get me to keep stopping for a very long time. But so high school, kind of started up playing free rolls online. Got interested when I watched the WSOP and WPT online. It was like, hey, it's a bunch of college kids doing well. Sweet. All right, let's try it out, see if it works. So.
And how far ago was that for you? When was that? Like, what years are we talking about as you started?
That was about when I was 14, so 2003, 2004.
Okay.
Right in there. So, right actually when the online boom was starting, so kind of got lucky there, but I was not 18 yet, so I was not playing with real money that I deposited. I played the free rolls and make a little money and then run up to total 100 and lose it all, and it was a safe way to learn because I was never used my own money.
Cool.
But did that till I was about 18, and then deposited some money and did all right. First big score was 6,000 when I was 18, got 7th in the Sunday Second Chance or whatever on Poker Stars, and that was crazy to me then because I was like, holy crap, I have 2.5 times all the money I ever had in my entire life.
Right.
Then, of course, about 2 months later, it was all gone because I was a kid and not that smart with it, and it wasn't as that much at that time either. And then worked at McDonald's for the summer to get that money back, and then worked at the library after that to get that money back, and got it all back. So that was actually the only time I've ever been in debt in my life. I was in debt $215 on a credit card
Okay.
or whatever, and it's like after that, I was like, nope, never again. So this is a great lesson to learn very
Yeah.
early on.
For sure.
And then I went to college, played with some friends in like $5 like little sit and go kind of things too, and was doing well in them. It's like, all right, well,
That was still online, or now that was live?
that was live.
So that was sort of your first.
That was my first experience with
Yeah.
live, but that was very mild.
Sure.
I didn't even play live too much until 2011
Okay.
summer. Actually, my first ever live poker tournament was. This was not a smart choice. I don't recommend it. It was the LA LA Poker Classic WPT main event.
No way. That was your
Yeah.
first live tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I played Satellite beforehand, but my plan was to go play that to begin with because I just had a nice little tournament score or whatever
Right.
in January. But yeah, I mean, so technically second, I guess. I played Satellite too, so I mean,
Okay.
that was nice. But
What was the buy-in for that?
Satellite was 1100.
Satellite was 1100. The main event
the
was
main event was 10,000.
nice.
So, yeah.
Go big or go home, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't smart. I didn't do that well.
But, okay,
I mean,
so
I made it to the very end of day one. But.
So if you weren't in debt, there must have been some significant scores ahead of time. Or
Yeah,
either big scores or consistent caching or something.
Yeah, I had 3 big scores online actually, 58,105 and 176. So
Okay. Just small little scores. Okay. Nice. Okay.
No, I mean, yeah, that's the nature of tournament poker. I mean, it's gonna be
Right, for
not
sure.
gonna do well and then have a big one, not do well and have a big
So were you
one.
pretty much a winning player, would you say, like right from the get-go with online tournaments? Or, obviously you made money and then you blew it, so to speak. But
Yeah.
like, that's not in poker. I mean, were you kind of generally always a winning player? Did you just kind of get it naturally?
It was very comfortable to me. I loved games. I love mind games. I love games where you're constantly challenging yourself and constantly adapting.
Yeah.
Constantly, like, there's never going to be stagnancy. You're always going to learn something new. Everybody's going to have their own adaptive style to it, and you're going to have to play back at those tendencies. And I was always very, very good at reading people, understanding people, and I didn't even have to see a person to really know how to understand them. Just by playing lots and lots online, I could just tell by betting patterns how much time was taken, how big bet sizes were, how often they raised somebody, any particular person. I could get right in the middle of them battling somebody else and know what this particular individual was doing against this other person. Like, I was good at seeing situations and patterns, so I was just, I don't know.
Are you
fascinated by
generally because you're a game guy, because you kind of got this? Do you credit logic? Are you analytical? What sort of, or is it more psychological, or what?
It's definitely psychological.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, yeah, there's definitely some analytical stuff involved too, but I'm actually generally more of an emotional person.
Okay.
I don't express it as much outwardly, but inwardly, I'm definitely much more emotional.
So you can connect with people on that level and
Yeah.
kind of understand. But then also you said you enjoy games. You've got a history of enjoying games. So obviously there's analytics and logic sort of embedded in that.
Well, I did chess for a while growing up too.
Okay.
So I mean that was fun. Got a few like minor trophies and stuff.
Of course you
like
did.
Nothing big.
No.
Really
But cool.
nothing big. I mean, the kind of like participation trophies. I don't know. Maybe there's like 40 people or something. But that was cool.
That's
Win
cool.
one of
Yeah,
those. I mean,
for sure.
Awesome. And
Well, it gives you
just,
confidence as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to a point. I mean, I struggled with confidence for a very, very long time. Poker is actually the first thing that really gave me confidence.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because I grew up in an environment where it was very perfectionist, very do the best you possibly always can, but always going to critique something you're doing. Never, hey, good job. No, this is something where you could have worked on. And it makes you resilient. It makes you really good at bouncing back from adversity.
So grit.
Such as resiliency. Yeah.
Yeah.
And grit. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. That was fun.
So you had some big online caches. You decided to go to play the LA Poker Classic, and then was that sort of once you got into the bigger live tournament situation? Was that sort of you just didn't look back? Or?
No.
Okay.
What I learned, I mean, like I said, this was a stupid choice. I mean, I lost like the majority of it again in a year and a half or so. I mean, I just played bigger events.
Playing big events, yeah.
Yeah, at the same time I was traveling, learning how to travel well, learning how to manage expenses for food and living and traveling.
So you had dropped out of college at this point, or did you finish college, or still doing both?
No, I was
or-
doing both.
Which is what? Where did you go to school, or what were you
I
studying?
went to Luther College, actually. Studied nursing.
Decorah, Iowa.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
I was doing nursing for 3 years. That my parents kind of pushed me along that route.
Okay.
I never had any passion for it whatsoever.
But it was a good, solid job.
Right?
I mean, that was the idea behind it.
Yeah. It was going to be a good, safe job.
Not like poker.
No.
Right. Okay.
No, poker is not exactly the safe job. But honestly, in this environment we're living in, there's not really a safe job anymore, and you can't think of the world that way. You got to constantly try to be innovative. But no, so I was doing the rotations actually my second year of nursing, and realized I really don't like the job, and I really did not like the biology classes I was taking. It was like my least favorite type of schoolwork was rote memorization, regurgitation. It's just not me. I need to be hands-on.
Okay.
And visual learner. I mean, it helps to some extent with books and learning through books, but at the same time, like, if it's just a bunch of random facts, I have no interest in it, so I'm just not gonna remember it. And I don't know. It was nice to kind of get out of that program in the minimalist, like, loss type of way possible. Then I took a year off, did a lot of self-exploration. That was 2010. So then come 2011, January was when I had my big tournament score by taking a break from poker for about 8 months. So I've also kind of seen how I always, like, during transitions, I've taken breaks from poker because I've never, again, the environment is both my parents were doctors, so they yeah, so they but I was never spoiled in that regard too, which was good. I'm glad I learned how to be self-resilient. But at the same time, it was very, very fortunate that, like, I didn't have to worry about food and clothing and whatnot. But for anything that I wanted to do, I had to go find a way to make my own money to pursue what my goals would be. Like, they would pay for me to go to school, which is a beautiful thing, especially for undergrad. So that was very special, actually. But yeah, I don't know. But I was. It's good at the same time, but at other times it's like you have no real control over what you're doing in that sense, where your life's already planned out for you.
Right.
For literally until you're like 65, maybe, and you retire from whatever job you're doing. And that was just never going to be the way I wanted to live, where I knew what I was doing every single day for the next 40 years.
You knew that just wasn't you. That just didn't line up with who you were.
It wasn't me. But
you're more of a free spirit, entrepreneurial, creative innovator.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And I just wanted to be able to try to do, like, my own kind of exploring. So, like I said, I only had $3,000, $3,500, whatever, saved up for the first 17 years of my life. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I had to work with. And, I mean, worked out, but then I lost it all, so I had to find a way to earn it back. So I did the 2 jobs at McDonald's and Rochester Public Library, and actually over the summer I had an internship at Mayo Clinic where I was working gastroesophageal reflux team. That's when I was still in the nursing program too. So I don't know, it's been a chaotic life, definitely. But going back to the live part, so I was not making smart choices live, but I also didn't know what all these other expenses were that I was now paying, and lost down to almost nothing again. So I started playing cash live for a while, and that's what started to give me a better feel for live poker in general. Okay. And then went through that for 2 years or whatever. Did well at the 1-2, 2-5 games or whatever down at Diamond Joe's and Canterbury and stuff like that. So got some back, and then I also took a job with Access to Employment, where you work with adults with disabilities in 2014. So did that for a year, but then government funding got cut in half, so the company went under. So, and literally right at that time where I was transitioning to a new position with my boss, like, she gave me a good recommendation over there, so I kind of bypassed the interview process, which was really cool or whatever, and I was doing the orientation. There's a fine print on a piece of paper that she showed me where if you have 3 more speeding tickets in a 3-year period, I'm sorry, our insurance can't cover you. So I talked to her back and forth for about a week, and it's like, you know what, I guess it's not going to work out. I tried, whatever. And that's when the MSPT score happened to get 5th or whatever down at Tama, and then a little nice MSPT run, final tables there. And then 2015, early on, I graduated college already with a degree in psychology.
Okay.
So I took the year off and went back and did psychology for 2 years. I originally did economics with it, but then I was like, I'm just gonna do psychology. So just focus on psychology for the last year. Graduated with that, and then I was in kind of a transition period because now this job shut down, but poker was starting to do well again. It's like, all right, cool. So 2015, from like January to April, I was just traveling around. I was driving.
Mm-hmm.
I went from one coast to the other coast. So I went from Florida all the way back to California, and then also over to New Jersey. So just absolutely everywhere.
Just
trying
following the tournament, or
yeah, just following tournament series around.
Any particular series that you were working on, or just sort of what worked out with your schedule and what was
Kind
available?
of worked out with my schedule.
Okay.
I had, I had a, I was living with some friends or whatever up in Twin Cities at the time, but I had a little broom covered room, so it was like whatever, just leave some stuff there. I don't care about being back, and I was much more happy on the road. So moved around, did the tournaments at Borgata, Parks, St. Louis, MSPTs, did the. Don't remember if I went over to. No, I think I went over to California after I did Vegas that summer. But like the long story short, I just kind of did it all.
And Vegas, the summer of 15 wasn't so bad.
No, the summer of 15 was very good.
This is what we're talking about. This is the year we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
you were prepared for Vegas, given all this travel, given all the tournaments.
Yeah, I go down to Vegas, going I was planning on grinding some other types of tournaments, not what I ended up grinding, because my bankroll is much different at that time too.
So you're just sort of constantly adjusting to your bankroll.
Yeah.
What can I afford? Which is good. You learned that debt lesson early, right? It sounded like, and you're sort of, all right, what can I afford to play? Was that the mentality?
Sure. But I have to constantly get better at that too. I'm the one that always likes to challenge myself and always likes to play higher, because my end goal. Summer was amazing. 2015 was amazing.
Yeah.
Personally, it just never felt like a climactic year.
Really?
Me. Yeah.
So
and it was awesome. It really was.
So this is not a climactic summer. When I look at Hendon Mob, and I don't know if I did my math right, but I counted 6 caches, World Series of Poker caches. That's probably about right, including World Series of Poker event number 6. $1,000 turbo, which got you your bracelet.
You got to run well to get that one, though.
Well, sure, of course, but $252,000 there on a bracelet. Sure. Then the next month, you're still there. Little 1-for-1 drop. Mm-hmm. Event 61, $1,100 buy-in, basically. I see a 4th place for about $213K as part of the 6 caches. So you got 6 caches, you got 2 big, monster scores. Mm-hmm. But this is not a climactic summer for John Redding. You're looking at that going, nice summer.
I'm very appreciative.
But on the journey to something else. Yeah. So what is climactic for you then? The rest for those of us who
say that.
Well, I don't know if you want to speak it out loud, but for those of us who are in this world, that's sort of you're operating in a different world, and we recognize that. But for those of us that are playing the bar poker, the $30, the $70.
Oh,
and
no,
of course you appreciate that, but we're looking at man, if I could cash an MSPT, that's awesome. So what does it look like for you? Do you have is there a vision of a specific thing, or is it just you'll know it when you get it?
There's the one tournament I always have a dream for, and who knows if that's ever going to happen, but how I see it is to always dream big. Because no matter what, then you're striving towards something. Even if you don't get it, you're always trying to get it.
As long as you're not always disappointed in yourself.
Yeah.
As long as you can still have gratitude along the way.
Correct.
Okay.
No, I'm very happy for where I am right now. I'm very happy for this summer.
Right.
I have
That's
an
awesome.
awesome life right now.
So I'm assuming we're talking World Series Poker main event, but maybe something else. What's your...
The main event.
Of course. Actually. Okay. That's got to be it, right?
It's everybody's.
When you're saying that's the Super Bowl, it's got to be.
It's everybody's. That's it. And then... that's the biggest one. And
is it to win it? Is it November 9 it?
Win it.
The dream is win it.
Yeah.
All right.
So I had dreams early on too, because I was the kid, and when I started playing online, anything that was big was huge for me. So my dream at first was winning the Sunday Million, and that happened.
Yeah.
I didn't think that would happen, but it did.
Yeah.
And then
which is what was the score in that deal?
The Sunday Million was 176,000.
Is that the one that kind of put you on the map? So to speak, for people to start going, oh, that's John Redding.
Even though that was the one where I finally felt personally that at least I can do. I'm kind of good at this.
You're not overmatched in a sense of
Well, like the first two big scores, the 58 and the 105,
Okay.
it was just like, I mean, everybody can hit a tournament score or whatever. I mean,
Okay.
I might have just ran good or whatever. When it was the third one, the third big one,
Okay.
that was the one where it's like,
This is for real.
okay. I mean, that's cool. So
Okay.
there's
Gotcha.
something special here at least.
Okay.
But I mean, I still have a lot of work to do.
Sure.
So.
Well, and I'd love to transition to some of that. I mean, you can finish your story here, but I want to get into.
Yeah.
All right, how are you getting there? What can people do to kind of get there? But okay, so 15 was the World Series of Poker, huge summer,
Sure.
and now for the last couple of years, like what are you playing now, like on a regular basis?
So right now, I have so many different things going on. So
I know you do, yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Fantasy stuff.
Well, the fantasy stuff, and I'm also in grad school for counseling psychology right now. So I mean, it's just.
So from a Texas Hold'em perspective, what do you got going in general? I know it's probably ebbs and flows a little bit. But
No.
How much are you playing? I mean,
I'm not actually playing that much right now.
You're playing tonight. I know that.
Playing tonight,
but that's okay.
I am, but I mean, I have a lot of projects for classes. I'm trying to stay healthy.
Yeah.
I'm in a serious relationship, so gotta spend time with her.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of balancing things right now. And poker has taken a little bit of a side turn in terms of playing like a ton, but instead of playing a ton, I'm studying a ton because I'm trying to do bankroll management. Because again, I'll admit I wasn't great again after last summer. I always want to try to force myself to be better, but if it like doesn't work out and I get plummeted back again, I'm never going to leave myself with like no way of working my way back up, and I'm never going to put myself in a bad position. Like it's like, okay, well, now time to rebuild again. So
when you talk about studying, are we talking about just generally trying to get better, or are you looking at your game and saying, well, there's a few things that I just know I need to improve on, so I'm going to study these specific things, or is it more broad, general, strategic things?
So there's a few things. So I mean, my studying has changed throughout the years too. So I played this for 13 years or whatever now. At first, what I did to study was I watched all the videos. Like I'd watch people play the big high stakes cash games or watch the TV or whatever. And what I do is I put my hand over the screen, where the cards were, and just try to guess of what the heck they're doing.
So hand ranging, basically.
But I never was like the hand, like. Look, I was not a typical online person, like grinder or whatever to begin with. I never used the heads-up display. I never had all these numbers and trackers and stuff. I never multi-table. I'd focus on one or two tables at a time. And then you were able to see a lot more minuscule details by doing that. You weren't just going by strictly mathematical numbers of, hey, here, 60% of the time you're going to be good, whereas 40% of the time you're not going to be good. Here, 60% of the time this move's going to work, 40% of the time it's not. When you're focused on one table all the time, you're going to see the different dynamics that people develop against other players. Yeah, that could be based on the numbers too, but you're going to see even little finer tuned details. I don't know,
so that
worked out for me.
I interviewed Joe Bernard. Now, sort of his idea too is he wasn't a big multi-tabler guy. He was the same sort of pay attention to details.
Yeah,
and that's what it sounds like you're similar there.
Yeah.
So you're covering the hand, but then you're watching all the details, trying to figure out what is he doing here.
No, one play that I can just I think of, and I always think back to it because it was just like, here's the perfect example of it. So it's a 6-handed tournament. It's the 105 score or whatever. It was the F-tops on full tilt. And there's this guy to my immediate right, and I know he's two to my right actually. And I know he's super aggressive. He loves to 3-bet, and he 3-bets all the dang time. Mm-hmm. And just watching him do this, I was like, all right, I get this. I'm
looking for your spot.
I'm gonna look for my spot. So what happened is, I want to think. So it was like a 3 flush board or whatever, and I checked. I was first to act or whatever, and then he checked in position. He'd raised. I think he was either the button or cut off or something, where he's gonna have position the rest of the hand.
So your middle position or something.
So it's a 6. It's 6.
Oh, 6-handed. So you're could be in the blinder. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
So the flop went check, and it was 3 clubs out there or whatever. I have queen 10 offsuit. There's no clubs here. Mm-hmm. The turn's a club, and I bet out. I have about $1 million to start. I bet out I think 150,000. I think there's like 200,000 or something in the pots. I bet out 150. He clicks it back to 350,000, and I'm going. You're only there's 4 clubs out here now. It's like you're only doing this if you have an ace of clubs or king of clubs. It just doesn't make sense. You're going to have a lot more bluffs here. So I have queen high. I have nothing, and I click it back to 90% of my stack. I put in 900,000 of my million or whatever, and then he tanks for about 3 minutes and folds because it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
But the math, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the math says to do that too.
Because if
but
he has an ace or king, you think he might just call behind,
it just
or
yeah. I mean, he might call, but it's just.
but just
The
there's way more.
frequency of how much he was 3-betting was
Okay.
like he's just not going to have a lot. Yeah, he'd probably call, try to trap more,
Yeah.
and he just likes to kind of take advantage and 3-bet all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't have anything as a 4 plus
So are you
4,
saying-
but it's like you're trying to rep something way too big.
So are
than
you
what you're
actually
supposed to
thinking of
have.
that in terms of? I mean, in a sense, it's hand ranging, but are you thinking about that in terms of what you said? He's got more bluffs than he's got the big hand,
Yeah, because I don't know. I was always trying to.
or just
I've
the
always just tried to
psychology?
focus actually on like one or like I was never here. They can have like 20 different possible
Right.
hands. I was like, all right, they're now like. So
It's
when
just
I was
polarized.
yeah, it's polarized. I always focus on polarized. Polarized
Okay.
is a huge thing for me. So
Yep.
it's like here, I don't know what he has. I just know he doesn't have one of the two nut hands that's going
Mhm.
to do this with, and I know he can't call.
And with the 10 of
whenever
clubs,
he raises.
can he? Yeah, right. With some medium club, can he?
Yeah.
Can he call? Yeah.
But actually, I gotta come back to this hand because no,
Okay.
it was really I'm messing up the stacks a little bit because when he clicked me back, it was 55% of my stack.
Okay.
So here, and this is a huge difference because here it's like committing me 55% of my stack, and if I raise, he's getting 6-1 or 7-1 to call.
Right.
But I was just like, he just doesn't have anything here. It just doesn't make sense. So I clicked it back to 90% of my
Oh.
stack. So it must have been I opened like to like 20% of my stack or
Okay,
whatever. He
yeah.
clicked it back to 55% of my stack, and then I clicked it back that 35% more to 90% of my stack. Because it's just I know he can't
Yeah.
call. It just doesn't make sense.
So as a
But the math here would say he can't fold. He can't fold like anything.
if he has any club, he's probably not folding, or a
I mean,
two pair
yes,
or
it's
anything.
2 pair. He can't fold. He's getting 7.
He can
he's
only
getting 6-1,
fold.
7-1.
He can
I
only
don't
fold
know. Math was
a
never
bluff.
my
He can only
huge thing.
fold just a flat bluff.
Yeah.
Right. That's all he can fold.
Yeah.
Interesting. But you made it play anyway.
Yeah, because I just because all the things leading up to this
Yeah.
was like this doesn't make sense. I know this bet can only work. I don't know, maybe 10% of the time to be profitable. Now, doing my own studying recently, I know what other people have used by ranges and stuff, and know the math a little bit better in that sense. But that was just never the way I learned to begin with. But it was like, in my mind, he can't call.
Right.
So I don't care what the math says, even if the math says he can call. He can't.
I have so many questions on the hand. So one thing. Okay, so if he shoves instead of just clicks back for half your stack, does that change? I mean, obviously
Well, then
you
I can't.
can't call.
No,
I mean, could you call
and
with queen high? Probably not.
I mean, a queen high on a 4 flush board. I mean,
Yeah,
in
you're
here,
dead.
if he has a pair, he beats me. If he has
Right.
ace high, he's a king high, he beats me.
So he makes a mistake by, in a sense, by betting that much. I mean, if he shoves, you're
a
probably
little bit, yeah.
And then you re-raise for 90% of your stack,
Mhm.
and obviously the question that I have, all of us Rex going, well, why didn't you just shove? Is the idea there it looks stronger to not do it, or is the idea I want to save some equity in case he reships?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit looks stronger to do it, and in case he ships and I was just completely wrong, I guess I'll fold and try for my 1 or 2 big blinds or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was just. It was more of like a mind game kind of thing too, because
Okay.
it's just gonna look weird to him. Like,
Right, it
the
does.
Heck, what the heck does what can I do against this?
Yeah.
So
Because I've wondered about that in certain spots where, even if I'm making like a bluff with a draw or
it was
semi-bluff,
basically the same as shoving.
it is, but
really
you
is.
save some equity, and that's where
Yeah.
I think about
It's
that
like
a lot.
he call off, and he's not gonna put me in for that last little bit unless he has
it.
Like
Yeah.
he can't.
Right.
There's no possible way he can put in anything that I don't beat or that I have any
Right.
chance against
Right.
for that last little bit. Even though mathematically that'd be such a ridiculously stupid play to fold there. The
Mhm.
play was that he was just going to fold this turn the majority of the time. I actually could not see a scenario where he was going to call. It just
So
the raise
interesting.
size, it didn't make sense. How much he's 3-betting didn't make sense.
Yeah.
He just, in my mind, it's almost impossible for him to have the 2 hands that he could possibly do this with.
And so if you don't mind digging into that further, I mean this is part of the strategy stuff that we're thinking about. Like,
Mhm.
I talk to these myself and other recreational players that are trying to figure the game out, and it seems like in the middle of every hand there's all this competing information. There's information, whatever it is. It could be stack size. It could be the type of player that might lead you to fold. and there's information that might lead you to call, and there's information that might lead you to raise.
Sure.
And it's this balancing act of what do we give the most weight to? And so as you're looking at that, I mean, there's probably some elements of that hand situation that I would say you should just fold. You know, whether it's where you are in the tournament, your current stack size, all of those things. And
yeah, because in a re-raise, he's like has to be mathematically prone to call. Like
right.
It in theoretical, I don't know, like orientation or theoretical thought, that should be the stupidest bluff of all time.
Right. So there's a lot of incentive to, you know, depending on where you're in the tournament, to say, do I really want to risk my tournament here with queen high? Yeah. So there's information or there's situation that would say you should just fold, and then there's information that you've got on their player type and their how they played the hand and the raise that say, okay, I should go after this. There's this overarching, I don't know, I assume you were in the money at that point, or
yeah, this is the final table.
You're deep in the money.
This is the absolute final table.
So
I mean, if I'm wrong, that's like a $40,000
right.
change.
So you've got real money sort of pay jump situations.
Actually, it's like a $200,000 because I mean it's $300 for first.
Okay, so yes, you've got that saying you should just fold because you should get the pay jump, and then they're saying, well, but I want to play to win. So there's all this competing information, and how do you? And maybe as a poker player you'll just say it depends, but how do you sort of?
Sure, I mean,
just what wins in those situations where you have all this competing information?
My instinct.
Yeah, that's so good.
But again, you can classify instinct as whatever the heck you want. I think it's going to be different for everybody.
But somehow
everybody's strength is going to be different that adapts their instinct.
Right.
I mean, some people, their instinct is going to be the math. They're just going to freaking know the math right at the top of their head. Some people, their instinct. My instinct, okay, I'll share it. I know when people are bluffing. I just know it. I don't know.
Is it logical you see something they do, or you just have intuition?
I'm going to say this doesn't make sense. And so to me, when it doesn't make
betting
sense,
patterns.
It's going to be betting patterns. It's going to be a lot, but that is my absolute strength at this game. I'm able to call now with like a queen high or jack high because I know the types of hands that they'll need a bluff in a certain position where
they're running
this
7-8
is what they have to get
draw.
me off.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. And the ace high can be the same as the queen high. You just have to know what kind of hands they have to bluff. So in a way, that was ranges.
Yeah.
And I guess I was kind of always doing ranges,
but
I
intuitive.
never thought of it as ranges.
It's intuitive.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so how would like that's so good. Like, so yeah, so part of it is the way that you're wired. You can probably pick up on some things. Part of it is all these years of experience. I think it just builds this intuition in you, and your intuition is tested right or wrong, and you subconsciously adapt.
I will say this right away: experience trumps absolutely everything.
Yeah.
In terms of watching the videos and playing the game, I've spent about 15,000 hours doing it now. I mean, on average, 3-4 hours a day for 13 years. That's how I can figure it out. Because I'm always watching videos before I go to bed or sometime during the day. Or now I've changed it more to instructional videos. So one it up, run it once. That's actually currently
that's who you use.
What I'm looking. That's what I've just started using. For a long time, I was always self-taught.
Yeah.
I don't know for any particular reason why, but I just felt like I could learn more by trying to teach from my own mistakes. Personally, I would learn it better. But But recently, I've just known what my weakness is versus what my strength is, and realized I'm learning how to bluff better. My strength has always been knowing how to hero call and knowing how to give very thin value. But when it came to bluffs, I knew some of them didn't make sense, and sometimes I was just hoping they'd fold and realizing this is not the way to think about that at all. So now I'm learning about more of ranges of what types of hands you're going to have in this particular position to bluff with, whereas before it's mostly just instinct of here, I think they're going to fold.
So if you can supplement your instinct with some other elements, that can only help your instinct, I suppose, as you go.
So that's why 2015 was awesome.
Yeah.
It really was. But I know I have still areas I can improve in and get better. So that's why I'm just, in my mind, I'm going to always shoot for the stars.
Right.
Because I've already done, I did not think I would be at the point that I am right now. I didn't think it would be such a huge part of my life. I think back when I was 14, 15, 16, I just really loved it. I had a great time playing it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I always dreamed of doing well and stuff, and then playing in the main event. And, I mean, it's crazy. I've played 5 times now. I mean, it's very special.
So you're gonna play that every year, the main event, or?
I mean, if I got money.
Okay.
So, I mean.
Do you take on? Don't share this if you don't want to, but do you take on investors, or you self-funded only, or do you do anything like that?
So, No, I'll share it right now. I've never, I've, I've never pre-sold action for anything I've played. I've always had to do it myself. There's times where I'll be like showing up to a tournament and somebody's like, hey, can I get 5-10% of you, or can I
Okay.
buy this little piece of you right now, and then, or can I swap action with you? And it's like, okay. However, recently I am starting to realize, um, since I'm in a long-term like relationship
Yeah.
right now, things are getting more serious. Life is getting more
So stability
complex. Stability
more
is a lot
valued.
more important.
right.
I might do it for the first time this summer.
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Sure.
And I still have a certain limit where if I'm not over this limit,
Right.
then I will. But if
Right.
I am, I'm not going to. So
Don't call John. Don't text John. Don't tweet John. He'll let you know if this is going to happen. So don't start unless you want people to.
no,
yeah.
because I don't know
Yeah.
if it's gonna happen right now. But I left myself open for like it to possibly happen
Yeah.
for the first time this summer. But for the longest time, it was. But again, that goes with. I didn't have somebody to support. I didn't have
Right,
to worry
yeah.
about that, so I could kind of shoot for the stars all the time and see what happens. And if it didn't work out, yeah, I would go through some tough times afterwards. But I find a way to build back up. I
Right.
would take another job or something on the side, and then just work on my game more, and then
Yeah.
work back up. And that's just what poker's always been to me. It's been up, down, up, down, up, down, and
You've taken the variance that exists within a poker tournament and said, I accept that variance in my life fluctuation finances,
Mhm.
which is easier to do when you're on your own and you know you have options or whatever. And it's a little trickier when you're in something together
100%.
and stability is. I mean, I've been married for a long time. I have kids and I play poker on the side. And
Sure.
this will sound hilarious to you, I think, but I've had investors the last 3 years
Sure.
where it's treated more like a fund, whatever. And for me, and I'm talking about, I play $15,000 to $20,000 worth of buy-ins a year, so it's like a weekend.
That's fine.
But yeah, for me, what I've found is part of it is you feel more pressure because you have investors even at that level. But part of it is the freedom of knowing, okay, if I bust this tournament, it's not actually going to come out of our food money,
Sure.
that sort of thing. So I think that's where people have to sort of assess that thing because it's kind of a hassle. And if you have a nice score, for me, I had a $12,000 score and that was awesome. But then I got to give up a good chunk of it to my investors,
No,
which
it's
is
fine.
cool. You share that with people.
Yeah.
But I think it's all like I would think of what makes you feel like you can play at peace
Sure.
without the risk of
One of the players I respect a ton has had investors for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So you know what? It's just completely to each their own kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and for somebody like you, where you could potentially charge an additional amount, that does create this fixed income stream.
Sure.
In addition
No,
to
and that's possible. I think for the longest time too, I'm much more of a heart player. I'm
Yeah.
always going to be feel. I don't know if it's instinct.
Yeah.
Or the ranges or whatever, but from from the 15,000 hours now or whatever, just lots of scenarios have occurred. So I've gotten a feel for what to do in particular spots or whatever. And I need to have 100% confidence in myself to go for it. And when it's all on me,
Right.
it kind of even more feels like it's stronger.
Okay.
And I feel like if I ever played for somebody else, I'd be more nervous.
Right.
Actually. But, yeah. Maybe this particular part.
And that's where you got to be. Yeah, you got to listen to what's your personality, what's your situation, and so I would love to chat a little bit of strategy with you, a little bit. And this is a question I asked Joe. And I'll probably ask a lot of the people that I interview, and it's intentionally vague. Okay, you're going to say, well, this is ridiculous. I can't even answer this question. That's the idea. But what I want to know is what are the first things that come to mind as far as lacking information? You know what I mean? Like I'm going to give you a situation,
Okay.
and it's incredibly vague. Like what are the first things that come to mind where you say I can't even explore this question until I know this?
That's a good question. It makes people think of where their mind goes first.
Right. So yeah. So what's your first reaction to this? So you're on the button.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You don't know. I'm not telling you anything else other than there's a raise in front of you from early position, under the gun raise, and there's a call, and you're on the button with Ace Jack. What do you do? What do you need to know? What's the first thing you need to know?
I need to know how often the person is racing under the gun. I need to know the size they're racing. I need to know how much time it took for them to raise. I know the frequency. I know the frequency of the 3-betting, 4-betting. You just sit at the table and you just get a feel where, all right, every 15 minutes they're gonna open a hand here, yeah, or maybe now they're gonna open 3 hands in 10 minutes or whatever. But yeah, it's just gonna be patterns. if it's all of a sudden they're going to raise more often, I'll loosen up my range a little bit more. If they're not raising as much, I'll tighten it up.
So it's really about playing the player. That's where your mind went to
Yeah.
first. Versus,
100%.
versus stack size, versus stage of tournament,
Yeah,
versus...
no, stacks, and that's why I'll definitely make some quote-unquote mathematical errors or whatever. Mathematical errors in that sense, because that's just not where my head goes first.
Because you think if
There's
he's
better
opening
plays
wide,
there.
it's an opportunity to 3-bet.
Um,
In general terms, that's sort of...
Sure, but I actually really like playing post-flop, too. I'm not the type of person that goes in 3-bet, 4-bet, 5-bet, whatever, pre-flop. I'm just very comfortable of knowing how hands develop flop, turn, and river to know when they're kind of full of it or when they're actually telling a credible line or whatever. So, and then people do it with the range. All right, this is what they're going to bet with these types of hands right now.
Right.
But I don't know what it's been exactly, but I'll know pretty quick when somebody's more polarized to certain hands, and then it's really quick. Then you can really figure out very quickly if the story's going to make sense or not based off this polarization. Okay. And then when it doesn't, then it's all right. King high is good, thank you.
Yeah.
Unless they had to turn a hand into a bluff because they got counterfeited. There's so many different scenarios.
So interesting. There, there's some instruction, and maybe this is what you do. I don't know. I'm hearing something different, but there's some instruction that says, all right, somebody raises or whatever some pre-flop action. You put them on some kind of a range, whether you actually call it the hands or not. You put them on some kind of a range, and then as the hand progresses, you're adjusting that range. So ultimately, you say, okay, where are we at in the river?
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like what I hear you saying is you're almost like putting the person on a personality range of, how likely are they to make a play, and then as the hand progresses, are they becoming more full of it, or are they becoming more legit?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it's a personality range or something.
Sure. That's where when I was playing online, I could kind of tell when somebody was getting frustrated. I was really, really good at telling when somebody was not necessarily tilting, going all out tilt, but I could tell when they were frustrated enough that to their style or their patterns variated very slightly. And then you could also take advantage of that right when that pattern variated, because there'd be more mistakes they'd make. And just I'd also make certain plays, like I would love to hero call, because then I would know really good how the dynamic of the table changes. For one, when you hero call, lots of other people are not likely to bluff you that were just watching you the entire time. They're going to have a semi-bluff if they're going to bluff you. It's not going to be some stone cold whatever the heck bluff.
Right.
So you can take that completely out of people's ranges very quickly. And then the person that you just beat, they're not going to bluff you anyways.
Right.
It's normally there are going to be the group of people that are like, challenge accepted, all right, 5-bet time.
Right.
Then they'll just go all out, which I actually really love. I love that more than I love people that won't play back at me. Because when I know they're playing back at me, I know that this is what they're doing, and this is why they're doing it. So here we go. Let's have some fun.
Okay. You mentioned hero calling. It's something I've shared in the episode before. I think I'm addicted to hero calling. I think it's a leak in my game because I love to hero call because I love the rush that comes. To me it's even better than when you run a bluff and you get it through.
Sure.
For me, the hero call is so powerful. But this is the problem that I have with the podcast is that I pretty much tell everybody how I play all the time. And so I was sitting at it was like a $75 bounty tournament or something, and there's a guy named Alberto. I don't know if you would know him or not, but he made a big bet on the river. I've got like bottom pair or something like that. And I called him, and I was wrong. He had it. He said, the only reason I made that big bet is because I know you love to hero call from the podcast. So I'm giving away all my secrets. Well, you're being vague enough, but there's the risk that I run with doing that.
Sure.
So where do things like stack size and some of those things filter in? So the vague situation where it's, the ace jack on the button and, whatever happened, you're looking, where's this guy? How likely is he to... What
I learned was that, what I've learned from other people that played much more volume or whatever, stack size was always a lot more important. And, I don't know, 3-bet tendencies, whatever. I was just always a pattern guy. I'll know when the pattern makes sense, I'll know when it doesn't. And that was strictly from experience of playing tons and tons of hands.
So in the exact same situation where, let's say, the original guy that opens has 100 big blinds and you have 50... versus the other way around. He has 50, you have 100. Is that
honestly that's not going to affect you too much?
So you're
unless
saying
it's
you're
super late in a tournament.
So you're saying we're both deep stacked. It's fine. Let's just go.
Yeah.
Let me play my game. If it's if they have 30 and you have 15 versus they have 15, you have 30.
I mean, see, I'd be the weird one too, where I'd have like 15 big blinds, and I would try to just make a play and play back at them.
So you raise the 7 bigs or whatever, and
I've done
Yeah,
it before,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
worked.
Yeah.
Because it's just more of a feel. Like, I feel this is going to work, and it's going to look super strong, because
it
mathematically,
does.
what the
You're
hell?
committing
You're
your
doing
like
mathematical suicide kind of a
right.
thing.
You're committing
whereas-
your sack basically. It seems like,
Yeah.
but you're not.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I had a fun experience too, where
Hmm.
I respect Koo a ton.
Yeah.
I think he's an amazing player. He's
Yeah.
phenomenal. But I had a point to prove. For some reason, we just got into debate, 'cause we were rooming together that summer, and we got into debate of
15? Of 15 you were
yeah,
during your run?
Yeah,
Okay.
we were rooming together.
Cool.
And we got into debate of you just cannot win just based off of needing to win. You need to have a range. You need to have like a way of getting to the river. You can't just have random cards and then pick a betting line and win. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. In
That's
my
what
mind,
he was saying. You were disagreeing or wrestling with it.
I mean, there's
Or-
really good spots to bluff and stuff like that. But like, if you just have absolutely nothing, normally it's not very smart to get to a river situation
Right, okay.
or pick some weird line to bet and raise because you're risking a huge portion of your stack, and it
Gotcha.
might not be a great idea. But I don't know. I mean, weird situation happens. I get moved to his table in the 3K. It's a second day.
Okay.
It was like 3 hands later or whatever. I'm under the gun. I have 6, 7 of diamonds. I raise under the gun, like min raise or whatever. Folds around to some dude in the, I think it was big blind. Defends his big blind. Flop is ace 5 deuce. Rainbow.
Yep.
Well, I'm first to act, so I see bet. I don't know, probably half pot, 40% of pot. He min raises. He clicks back, and I'm immediately going, why are you clicking back?
If you got an ace, you'll just call, right? I mean,
If you have an ace, you're just gonna call.
yeah.
Ace 5 deuce. It looked bluffy right away.
Yeah, super dry board, right?
It was peculiar.
Yeah.
It was peculiar to me. So I decided to float. So I floated. I just called. I just called
Yep.
min raise. Turn is I'd turn a gut shot. So turn was a 9. Just offsuit 9.
Yep.
I mean, there's probably like a different flush draw or something out there, or maybe some rainbow, but it was an irrelevant part of the hand.
Yeah.
Just the way it played out is kind of an irrelevant part of the hand. So I check here because I know what my line is going to be, and I know what my line is right away with this raise on the flop. Even if he did have some weird 2-pair or something, he's just not going to be able to finish this hand with this type of hand by the line that I'm about to take.
So can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Okay. I was worried people lose their train of thought, but I'll lose my question if I. So you say I know what my line is now. Regardless of whether he checks back, regardless of whether he bets. I mean, are you thinking
based off the way that he min clicked me back?
right?
I'm almost dead certain he's about to bet this turn.
Right.
And I'm
right.
almost
He
dead
almost
certain.
has to, right? He almost has
He
to.
almost has to.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the person.
So is
it
your
might change,
line- but
for
your
some
line-
reason I just knew this person was just about to bet.
So is your line to? I mean, when you're thinking about that, are you actually thinking
My line was a check raise him on
my
the
line
turn.
is a check raise a turn, or potentially could have been to call and then lead out the river? But you were saying I got this
I was
line.
going to check raise him on the turn because
Yep.
I know that's going to be the strongest
Strong,
looking
you bet.
line I can possibly do. Because here I just floated his min click back on the flop. Now I'm checking. Now I'm about to check raise him on
Yep.
the turn.
And did you
What
think of
the
that
crap would
when
I
you
even
called the
have?
flop bet? You were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, this is your chess coming back in, right? You're 3 steps ahead.
Mhm.
So you're saying when you bet the flop, you didn't really have that line. 'Cause you don't know what he's going to do.
No, I thought like this is a standard bet back. I have a
just
lot
see
more
bet.
aces in my range, and he's going to
Yeah.
have calling out the big blind. I'm going to see bet here.
So when he min raises back, you go. I mean, because at that point you have options.
Yeah, of course.
You can fold, you can call, you could re-raise right there.
Yeah.
You're
I
thinking, you're just intuitively thinking the most profitable line is to
was
call,
the check raise the
check
turn
raise turn.
because if I re-raise, thinking now what I would think if I just re-raise back on this flop, what the hell am I representing now?
Right.
Why the hell would I even like click back like a set here? That doesn't make any stupid sense, and I'm not going to do it with any type of ace. I mean, I would highly doubt I'd even do it with ace king, and it'd be stupid to do it with a set. Like
Right,
it's
for
just stupid to
Okay.
re-raise back here with almost every possible hand you could possibly
and you're
have.
gonna take away
That
his
would make
opportunity,
sense. That would make sense after the next 2 cards.
and you're taking away his opportunity to bluff the turn,
Correct.
which you want to.
Correct. And I want to maximize to get more chips from him that I know he's about to put into this pot.
Okay.
So I completely went with the line of I don't have a hand, but this is how I'm going to get the max chips here because I know what he's about to do and I know how to counteract it.
And so do you?
But I didn't know this player. I just moved
Right.
to this table.
Right.
It was a third hand. But something about this just was like, he wants to play a little fun game here. All right, let's play. Because I love people that like to play a little fun game. I love people that like to play back.
And are you logically thinking that? I mean, obviously, as you break it down now, you're logically thinking. Are you logically thinking that, or has that become such a natural sort of weird situation? This is just a check raise on the turn situation, as much as like three betting or whatever. Is that just?
I don't know. It doesn't sound logical to me. It just sounds like, for me internally, it was just like this is the right play.
Well,
I know what my plan is all the way until the river.
Right.
Barring a few types of cards come out that I wouldn't like.
Well, sounds
like
logical
another
to me.
ace on the turn.
It sounds logical to me from like if I break it down into an EV perspective. I know you're not thinking that. I mean, as a logician, it sounds logical to me. But for you, that was just you weren't. I mean, it wasn't logic. It was just this is what I'm going to do. But was it like instantaneous, almost like when they clicked back the min raise? Was it like instantaneous? Like okay, this is a check the turn spot.
This is a check the turn spot. Actually, so I think I like had an inkling of that. I would probably check raise, but I didn't know I was gonna immediately check raise on the turn. I was just gonna kind of see what happened, and I was gonna see what his bet sizing was. I was gonna see if his bet sizing matched what I thought he would do to continue his line of min raise in this flop, which would try to tell his story, which was bogus. But I mean, maybe it wasn't. But even if it wasn't, you just understand that this line is like almost impossible to counteract, even if he has like a bottom two pair or an ace five even. It's just eventually he's just going to run into like the most ridiculous thing. And here we're the two big stacks in a 3K tournament. There's 8 tables left.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy crap, it's the third hand and I'm risking like 80% of my stack here in this spot. But just continue the spot. I mean, so now there's like 18K or whatever in this pot. I mean, I could probably try to figure out the math or whatever. I think it was, I don't know, I think it's like 1,000, 2,000 blinds or whatever, so I raised like 4,500 flats, so 9,000, 11, 12,000. I bet out 4,500 or 5,000 or something on the flops, 12,000, 17,000. He min clicks it back to 10,000, so that's 15, so that's 27. And I called 5, so that's 32. Then I check, and he bets like 19 or 18, and it just felt weird to me. And I was
like he wants you to fold. That feels like he wants you to fold.
Yeah, and it feels like he wants me to fold. And I had 138,000 or 125,000 to start this hand or whatever. He bets 18, and I click it back to 40,000. And I take some time because I know the timing matters too. Because I have to realize how much time I take is going to be relative to what types of scenarios I'm thinking about. So I'm thinking of all the time of how much time I need to take with each decision as well too. So I click it back or whatever, he calls. So let's say if that 130K stack or whatever, I think, I don't know. So 40, 10, 50, 54.5. So I got like, I don't know, like 74. So it's 74 or 74.5, something like that, behind or whatever. Oh, I forgot to say the turn. Yeah, the turn was 9.
So he called your check raise on the turn?
He called my check raise on the turn, and then I'm going, all right, this is interesting, but I still don't think you have a set. It just doesn't feel like a set, and this is the set is like the only hand that can call on the river. However, I can't bet quickly on the river because it's going to look weird for my line too. So the river comes, it's like another deuce or something. So it's pretty irrelevant card. And I missed my gut shot, obviously.
Yep.
And now I'm just going to think for a bit. I'm going to think for about 3.5, 4 minutes because it's like, all right, because I have to think about what I want to do. If I bet too quickly, it's not going to be smart.
Are you actually thinking, or are you just...
No, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm going, I know what amount of time I have to take now to make it credible.
To make it credible.
So I think, and then I bet like 48,000.
So over half the we have left.
Yeah, over half of what I have left. And here, I mean, it's like third hand. I'm risking, like I have a huge stack compared to these tables, and I'm just going for it because it just doesn't add up to me. It doesn't make sense or whatever. And he thinks about it for a bit. He thinks. He looks. He thinks. He looks. He thinks. can't remember if he showed it face up or folded. I think he showed. He had ace-5. He flopped 2 pair or whatever.
Really?
And then I flip over my 8-7 of diamonds or whatever.
To show coup, primarily,
To show
right?
coup. To show coup. Hey, coup.
Right.
This is what I was talking about. That you can actually do this. I don't advise it to do it all the time.
Right.
And I tell him, and we had this debate. No, it's not something you do a lot either. But you
It
got
can
to
be
have
done.
heart sometimes when you have absolutely no cards
Right.
and no scenarios. Sometimes you just got to make up a hand and figure out how to get chips. And this was a place where I found I could get a lot of chips with nothing,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
even though it was a ridiculous risk. I mean, I don't even know if we're in the money at this point yet either. So,
Yeah.
But I was easily going to be able to coast into the money if I didn't play this hand. But it's just like, no, I always go into a tournament. I want to win.
Yeah.
That's all I think about, and that's definitely going to create my variance of I'm not
Right.
going to cash. I'm not
Right.
going to min cash as much as a lot of people because I'm always trying. I'm always trying to win. So the stack sizes are not as big of a thing to me
Right.
because I'm always going. Here's the play right now. If I get eliminated, even on the bubble or a little bit
You can live
before
with
or
that.
whatever, I can. It
It
sucks.
sucks, right?
And I mean, right now, I would love just to get a bunch of min cashes. Right now, I don't. I mean,
Looking
not,
for
not
this.
yeah, not. I'm okay right
Yeah,
now, but
yeah.
I can't do what I did like a year ago, and I can't do what I did 2 years
Right.
ago. I don't have any of that amount. I mean, I have an amount I basically started 2015 with right now.
Okay.
So it's like,
Yeah.
all right, back to
Because the variance
square
is,
one.
yeah.
Because the variance is huge.
Yeah, you're right.
And I mean, when you're not playing all the time too, you're gonna get a little rusty in some areas too. So
Right.
I mean, I always have a hard time kind of like jumping from turn to turn and then going back to school. And I mean, grad school is a lot of work.
Yeah,
So,
for
I mean,
sure.
just gotta focus on that. But the summer will be better. I'm gonna be super motivated this summer. So I guess it's the time to
Cool.
invest.
Yeah.
If I do it, it will be
Right.
this summer.
Right. Well,
But
asking you about that, like the playing to win.
Well, I don't know
I've
if
talked
you
a
know
lot.
that
I've talked a lot about on the podcast
Yeah.
before. Sort of my mix of, in the moneyness versus playing to win, and that combination. It's sort of this, it's almost this graphic of.
So there's two
Okay.
types of players.
Yeah.
I know players that, but see, again, I'm in the unique scenario where it was never about providing for kids, providing for a family. It's going to
Yep.
change completely how you think of the game.
Yep.
There's players I completely respect that do it to provide for their
Right.
family,
Right.
and they're not going to take the risks then. They're not going
Yep.
to just go with the heart plays of, hey, I'm just going to try to make something out of nothing right
Right.
here. Because the risk is bigger, because
Utility
what they're-
theory.
yeah, because where their money has to be allocated
Right.
to
The downside
is
is-
more strict. It's
Right. Mm-hmm.
more like concrete. Whereas when it was just me, I was comfortable going through these ridiculous swings, and I've gone through
Right.
ridiculous swings throughout my career because it makes me like. I mean, yeah, I want to say it makes me feel alive. At the same time, I mean, it's not the. But I've always wanted, and I still do. I want to play with the absolute best of the best. I eventually want to be in the high rollers and
Mhm.
super high rollers. I'm not there yet, and I have a lot to learn still. But I know I can have that heart to play in those
Yeah.
tournaments because I know what's required at times. But at the same time, I know a bunch of those players will sell the majority of their action and swap action. So
Right.
really, when you think of when you think of a 100,000 buy-in tournament, most of those people are in for about 20,000
Right.
or 10,000.
Mhm.
It's
And they're
That's
free,
actually
and they're
how
free
those
rolling
things
basically
work.
because if they're selling that markup, they're playing there.
Yeah.
They got 10% of themselves for free. And
yeah.
You
So
know.
when you think of a 100,000 buy-in tournament, all these people playing it, no,
Right.
it's not they all have 100,000
It's always-
they're putting up. Not
it's
even
always
close.
worried that they all just have a piece of each other and there's collusion going on and all that kind of stuff. I always
Yeah.
worry about that kind of stuff too.
No, and you have to be careful with that, of course. I mean, but I mean it's lucky now. I'm getting to know people that have started to do really well. I mean,
Mhm.
I knew the guy that won the super high roller actually last summer.
What was his name? I think I
Rainer
watched.
Kemp.
Rainer. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so hang out a little bit.
That's cool.
He's on where I met him was actually my little one drop final table. So
Okay.
I mean, just kind of stay in touch for the year after that, like through Facebook and stuff like that.
Do you guys talk strategy then, or is it more just
No, no.
relationship?
Just more
Just
friendship.
friendship, okay.
I mean, go get drinks and stuff when
Yeah.
we see each other.
Because I'm curious about like that. Now, I want to respect your time. We're almost at an hour here. You've got buddies that and people that you room with, and those sorts of things on the road. Talking strategy, I assume at least is part of that thing. And as I look at if you can somehow translate that to the recreational, I mean, you're recreational too because you're doing other stuff, but like,
Mhm.
you know, the smaller stakes recreational player, the guys that see 280 as a big tournament
Sure.
and below, you know, what do you, any words of advice on how do people like us learn the game better? You mentioned videos, you know, there's people that you can talk with. You
Word
know,
of mouth is probably a huge, or like having a group of people that play really well, that you respect,
Yeah.
and sharing hands and stuff with them is probably really useful. I didn't take advantage of that for a long time because for a long time I was doing online, so I was strictly until 2011. I was learning completely
Yeah.
from myself and my own.
If you have
mistakes.
free time, let's play. Let's not
Yeah.
talk. Let's play, right? Kind of thing.
Well, it was the online too. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know
Oh,
anybody
okay.
that played in Minnesota. I didn't know anybody whatsoever because at that time too, I was in college at
Yeah.
Luther, so I just play online or whatever on
Gotcha.
a Monday or Sunday afternoon because I was always like, let's get the big buy-in tournaments. That's the excitement.
That's your
for me.
motivation.
That's my motivation.
Your passion. Yeah.
That's where my motivation is. But I mean, and then be smart about it too. Like if I don't have that, okay, then move down and work back up.
Mhm.
But that's what's that is definitely where my passion is. But yeah,
Just connected
I mean,
with others and.
But now in the climate that it is right now, having a group of people that knows the game well,
Yeah.
or that you respect, or that not even necessarily knows the game well right now,
Mhm.
but is like really motivated
Right.
to get better,
Right.
and is just a good support in that sense is really good. Just having people that support you doing it is really
Yeah.
important, and I
Yeah.
never had that. I have not.
Yeah.
The first time my like dad came out to actually like support me in that was actually 2016. So
Okay.
before then, parents were constantly trying to stop me from
Right.
doing it, and I get it, and I really do.
Yeah.
They come from a different walk of life where they've
Right.
learned how to succeed in this world was a much different method
Yeah.
and a less riskier method, but at the same time very rigorous. I mean, you have to
Right.
study a ton, you have to work a ton. But just the rote memorization was just never going to be my strength. I learned this from like college on. It's just
Not you.
this is not me, and I'll get stressed. And I do, even in grad school right now, I still get really stressed when it comes to tests where I have
Yeah.
to rote memorize and regurgitate because it's just not. I mean, it's not supposed to be fun, but it's just not very meaningful to me. Especially if you're not even going to use it in your profession. It's just like here,
Mhm.
memorize the stuff and put it on a test so it looks good and show that you're
Right.
like learning something, even though you're not even going to use it later on. And
Yep.
so the motivation to do that was always very difficult. I mean, for being a doctor, of course, you're going to use that information
Right.
later, but the concept's the same, where it's memorization,
Right.
regurgitation, and
Yep.
that was just tougher for me. But again, with the no support too, it lended itself to resiliency because I had to personally motivate myself to bounce back from setbacks,
Right.
and I had lots of setbacks. I still have setbacks.
Of course. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's going through a time right now
Yeah.
of,
The
of,
variance
of
is against
difficulty.
you. Or,
Yeah, and no, I mean last year was my absolute worst year.
Oh, is that
ever.
right? Okay.
Yeah, it was. And that's fine. It's just
Yep.
gonna happen.
You know, I mean, you know
So
that going in. It's like, I mean, I don't do a lot of personal investing, but I've worked in investments and capital markets hedging and this stuff, and the whole idea of a Sharpe ratio. I don't know if you know about that idea, where you know it's the whole risk over return relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and you're choosing to invest, or you've chosen to invest sort of as a the small cap international fund, where it's going to be like all over the place. And some people are doing the blue chip thing, where
Sure.
the expected growth is
Yep.
is higher in the
Yep.
in your world, but it's going to come with the
No.
variance.
The biggest
Yeah.
things, all I have to keep looking back is how much have I paid in taxes, how much have I paid in living expenses, how much have I paid in traveling expenses, how much have I paid in food,
Yeah.
how much do I have now, and then I see, oh no, I've still made a very
Right.
considerable
Yeah,
amount to
yeah.
what I've lost. But unfortunately, it's not going to show up in your bank account sometimes because you
Right.
have a bunch of other expenses.
That's right.
I'm
yeah.
completely
Life
taking
still
care of
happens.
myself right now with
Yeah.
this, and that lends itself to
Mhm.
you gotta be smart.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So learning the game,
Constant learning.
the game, you'd say get around some people that you respect or that have the drive or whatever, know more than you, and kind of hash through some of the things. You mentioned a website. Is there any websites you'd recommend?
runuponce.com.
Running up once.
Phil
Who puts that on?
Phil Gelfon's
Oh, it is.
website.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that a paid subscription or is that some free
Yeah.
material out there?
I think you might be able to look at it for free. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I mean, there's one that's $9.99 per month. There's
Okay.
Pro track that I'm using right now is like I think it's $90 per month or whatever. But then you see all the pro videos. You see
Yeah.
all their hand histories. they talk, and there's a section where you can comment with them and
Okay.
talk back and forth, and it's just it's helping me with the
Yeah.
ranges right now because I got to work on bluffing, not bluff to bluff. I mean, sometimes it does work,
Right.
sometimes the heart
Right.
does work, but those situations are going to be not
Yeah.
as they're not going to be as common.
It's
They're
not every
nearly
not
gonna
every
be as
tournament
common.
can you run something like that, right?
No, it just
Yeah.
has to be particular scenarios
Yeah.
that just make sense. And luckily, I'm able to find where those scenarios are
Yeah.
a good portion of the time. But I'm also missing out on tons of scenarios where, based on the range, here you can bluff a lot easier.
Okay.
So that's
So
what I'm personally working on.
Okay, so last question.
Yeah.
I think I always say last question. I ask more, but this hopefully will be it. You know, as you think about all of the things there are to know, and obviously you know a lot of it for you is reading betting patterns, reading the person. So you've got that. You've got stack size. You've got how to play early, middle, late. You've got structure of a tournament, your own hand range, your opponent's hand range, position. I mean, there's a billion things that go into playing Hold'em.
Of course.
So as you're talking to new players, if you were to say, here's the top 3 things that you need to master. I mean, without these, you're never going to be a decent player. Or if you were to really to prioritize, these things, opening ranges all the way through what your opponent has to reading physical tells to all of the things that go into Texas Hold'em. If you were to say, master these 1, 2, 3, 4 things, what would they be? What would be your suggestions there? Or I mean, conversely, you can think about it in terms of when you see people making mistakes at a table, what are the biggest mistakes you see them making? Which would be another way to say, what are those things that you really need to pay attention to?
I mean, just taking unconventional lines.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Again, a lot of how I would play is from experience. I'm the hands-on learner. That's just the way I learn the best. It's the way I see the patterns the best. So I can't particularly say a particular pattern that would cause them to be worse. I mean, yeah, there's tons of factors. If you're super emotional, you're gonna not be that great. If you're gonna bet something kind of outrageous, that's just not going to make sense. You might risk a lot more chips than you need to in a particular spot to accomplish the exact same task. It's like a 2.5 bet to accomplish the same task as a 5K bet, and here you're risking 2 times more of your stack to accomplish the same thing. So understanding where that might be an issue. Bluffing the bluff. I mean, I've been guilty of that. That's definitely be careful. I mean, it doesn't actually really hurt just to start with A, B, C.
Yeah.
This is what the hand I got. Let's play this hand and just be tighter. Start off being tighter.
Mm-hmm.
Just examining, seeing where the spots are, seeing where people get out of line more, seeing where people's ranges are a lot bigger. So when the ranges are a lot bigger of certain people, then you can play more hands back against them.
Right.
Controversially, if the ranges are extremely thin with somebody, that's really fun too, because then you can bluff the crap out of them. So it's just all player dependent.
So sort of learn the game and then build a skill at a time, in a sense.
Yeah, in a way. I mean,
yeah.
A big thing is never ever get discouraged by results. I mean, right now 2015 was amazing, and I'm very lucky to have that. But I mean, this year was just it was rough. Mm-hmm. This year was just rough, put it that way. And you just can't yes, and there's places I wish I worked played better and stuff too. But I mean, then there's other times where it's well, crap, there's nothing you could do here. But at the same time, it's you got to see where you're constantly learning. And every single tournament, I guarantee you've made a mistake. Yeah, I guarantee Phil Ivey has made a mistake at least in getting missed 10,000 chips or whatever in this particular pot. He could have made a certain amount of chips more, and he would say to himself, I think there was some video where he said you can always learn something, or I make a mistake every tournament, but I learn. And the trick is learn when you make the mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes again.
So looking at
I make mistakes a lot.
So looking at that money that you spent on the tournament is that was the cost of this lesson. I better learn from it in a sense. In a way of let's take some value out of busting this tournament.
Well, so okay, the best tournament I've actually played this entire year so far. I mean, I've played 6 or something total because I was in Singapore for January and then came for my study abroad course for grad school, and then came back and maybe it was 10th, but whatever. It was a satellite or whatever, and played it. And I was finally super, super happy how I played each hand and was thrilled. And I busted.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I felt the best that I've felt in every single tournament so far. Because it was like, I played really well, and I'm really happy. The 3 big pots that I lost, I was ahead, and I lost.
Yeah.
And, well, actually, the very last one was Ace-King into Kings in a spot where there's nothing that could have ever been done in that spot. And it's just like, nothing I could have done there. But I really, like, I remember leaving that tournament feeling happy. I just lost money,
really
but
well.
I was happy that I was starting to feel like I was getting back into my old groove of being able to play up to the potential I know I can play at.
Yep.
So
not being just results-oriented, being...
Yeah,
again,
you
did
can,
I make the right decisions?
Just not be results-oriented. If I was results-oriented, I would have been out of this game a long, long time ago. Because there's multiple times I've lost lots of money.
Well, you would have been incredibly arrogant in 2015, and now... incredibly, totally. Intolerable in 2016, right? I mean...
No, luckily I learned the whole arrogance thing early on. The big one was 2011. Like, when I get that big online score. And then being like, I can take on the world. Like, I'm going to go play a 10K tournament. That's a live tournament. And I don't know anything about live. I've never played that high before. There's so many nuances here. The pace of game is so much slower. Mm-hmm. You got to be patient.
Right.
I mean, I was just stupid.
Okay, interesting.
No, I mean, definitely what calmed me down and made me more centered again was just grinding cash for a while. And it doesn't hurt just to grind cash, and just because cash games you're going to learn a ton. I mean, tournaments are a little bit different, but cash games you're going to see a lot more hands. You're going to play them in a lot of different ways. You're going to see a lot more different types of scenarios. There's going to be a lot less standard plays in cash games than there will be in tournaments, so to speak. But I was actually... So I went through a really tough year last year, but I was really happy where my mind is again right now. It's weird. It's like deja vu right now of 2014, like right when the MSPT run was starting, and then 2015 when it was really, really rough. Yeah.
Cool.
So it's like it's feeling like it's going to be good. I don't know how, and I'm going to hope. I mean, I'm not expecting anything.
Sure.
I'm just going to play as best as I possibly can.
But you feel like you're on the verge of your A game. And,
yes. And that's where I want to be.
And breaking through.
And that's where I want to be. And I'm also much more conscientious again now of like where I'm spending money. I have plans already for the summer setup of barring some big score or whatever, my tournament bankroll changes again.
Right.
I know what I'm going to be playing this summer right now, and depending on where my bankroll is at that particular time is if I'm going to sell action.
Yeah.
Right now, I really don't know.
Yep.
So I'm going to know like mid-April. I think that was the time that I told myself. Until then, no. I'm gonna try to
be disciplined.
Not actually, because I have never done it before, so it was not my plan. But I was not closed off to it this time, so I'm just going to see.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. It's been, I appreciate your time. It's been fun to get to know you a little bit and hear some of your story. And I'd love to at some point maybe we circle back and talk strategy around some specific hands. But it's so interesting to hear different people's paradigm because I think
it comes from a different walk in the game. I mean, everybody. I don't guarantee. I don't know.
Guarantee. Go ahead. When?
No, I mean, I'm sure a bunch of people have learned in a different manner. Like, there's not one standard way of learning the game. I mean, my strength was knowing people's tendencies really quickly, knowing when they're bluffing a lot easier, and now still learning the best ways of how to personally bluff and make it credible.
Yeah.
I'm just good at knowing when other people are not credible. Versus other people, like, I mean, stack size was never my super strength until I became friends with Koo, and then started getting better at that. I mean,
well, it's so interesting because
all those things I'm working on.
As somebody pretty new to the game and learning this stuff, there's sort of this. Maybe it's just me that thinks this, but I have a feeling it's others that think there's a right way to play the game, a right way to approach the game. We just have to get the right book that resonates with us or talk to the right people that resonate with us. And there maybe is, but what's interesting is already just the few conversations I've had, it's significantly different in terms of an overall perspective. And what I sense is it's consistent with your personality and how you're wired.
100%.
And that's where it's like, maybe the challenge to us is, for those of you who are listening,
play to your strengths.
What are your strengths?
Learn what your weaknesses
What's
are,
your
so where your
personality?
weaknesses and your leaks are going to be. But learn what your strengths are and where you can accumulate.
How much
chips.
variance can you handle? How much? What are my strengths? And am I mathematical? Am I psychological?
No.
Am I?
And I will throw this out there just
Yeah,
really
go
quick
ahead.
too. So since I was the 1-2 table person online or whatever, I would always say this tournament matters. Like, this is an important tournament, and that's probably why I had to play a little bit bigger too, to make it feel like it mattered instead of like just multi-tabling a ton of tournaments at
Right.
a time. But also what that does is it variates the math for me more. So when it got shorter big blind stacks or whatever, I would do a play where I bet 20% of my stack and fold. Because I knew if there was a shove here, I was beat. And it just didn't feel like the standard, yeah, you can call, and mathematically, this would be the standard play of shoving 10 big blinds here or whatever. But I know two spots, two big tournaments. The only two big tournaments I've won online is I folded pocket jacks pre-flop 5-handed, and I folded ace king pre-flop 7-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And I bust both times in 5th and 7th place. And where I am right now probably never occurs.
Interesting.
The Sunday Million, I
Yeah.
folded ace king pre-flop, and I would have run into ace king and queens. The pocket jacks, I run into pocket kings. And both times, this is the huge key. Both times I had between 10 and 12 big blinds
Yeah.
to start that hand.
Interesting.
Because I just knew
You just knew
the way
you
the
were
action
good.
was going.
Yeah.
I knew what my perception was of tightness or whatever, and taking the line where it was a raise here in this particular spot, I was beat.
And that's where you look at, like, you know, sorry, we have to, but you look at GTO or whatever, you know, people study all these different things, you know, game theory, optimal, and all these different things. Like, okay, well, you know, you have to shove, you have to get in, you have to do this. And as I played more too with some of the situations I've been in, talking to you guys, like, well, there is no standard. You know what I mean? Especially when there's all this information that's not, you can't condense into a pre-flop range chart. You can't condense into a GTO shove on the button thing. There's just too much.
No, what I'm learning right now is these when I've like tried to start doing the standard 10 big blind shove or 12 big blind shoves, I've actually gotten worse.
They always
so
have
I'm
it,
like,
right?
yeah, I'm not.
Right.
I'm like thinking that's not actually
Yeah.
the smartest thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you can always make arguments because here you're betting 20% of your stack and losing,
Right.
so it's harder to get back those chips that you just lost. But how I always see it is, hey, you got chips, you can still come back.
Right.
You're still
Yep.
in.
You still
the
have equity
tournament.
in the tournament. Yeah.
Versus if you're playing a ton of tournaments, you're always going to go for that 60%, 50%. Like, even if there was like a flip and I knew I had to call all in, even if I had the pocket pair and you had the overcards or whatever, and I'd be that mathematical favorite, I don't want that spot.
Right.
And I don't care if it was like, if I only have like 10 or 12 big
Right.
blinds or whatever to start this hand, I know it's going to be a flip.
You don't want the
And
variance at that spot.
Yeah, and the
Mhm.
importance of the survival in the tournament is a lot more important to me than taking the 5% advantage or whatever.
Yep.
In a cash game, you take it all the time because a
Yep.
cash game you keep reloading.
Right.
In a tournament,
It is mathematical.
In
Yeah.
a tournament, the value of being in a tournament is just not as I don't know. I guess this is not as appreciated sometimes.
Yeah, it's that utility theory piece. Yeah.
I
It
mean, when you can
totally
play
is.
multiple tournaments,
I think
then
cash you can say
focus.
make more of an expected value on every decision because it's a
Yeah.
linear sort of thing. You get
Yeah,
more
then
chips.
you
it's
always,
linear.
want nines versus ace kings all
Right.
in pre-flop
Yep.
if you're
Yep.
playing a cash game.
'Cause
And
you're
you're
going
going
to
be
win.
a tough spot to be in to
That
begin with
edge.
because it's a cash game. Why the heck are you
Yeah.
all in with
Yeah.
nines pre-flop against ace king?
Right.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Theoretically. Yeah.
That's what you want then every time.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. Unless you have any parting words of wisdom for anybody.
No, sure. I mean, best of luck. Keep studying. Don't be discouraged. You're going to go through hard times. 2015 was awesome for me, but it's a tougher time right now. Hopefully it turns around. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But just never give up. Ever. Like, it's just,
That's awesome.
and always just go for what your dreams are. Just always shoot for the moon.
Yeah.
Then even if it doesn't get there, at least you're always striving for something and always trying to make it work.
That's
But,
good, man.
yeah.
Yeah. Figure out what your dream is. Don't say, "Oh, John Redding's dream is to win the main event." That's my dream. It might be, but figure out what
I'm sure it's a lot of people's
it
dreams, and
is.
I'm not more special than anybody else,
Right.
but I know that's what I want.
That's your dream, but I
That's
think
what I
for
want.
people listening,
And
figure out what is
sure a lot of people
your
out there.
dream. You know, figure out what is your dream and how do you get to achieve your dream and that sort of thing, and aligned with your personality and
Mm-hmm.
good stuff, man. Thanks.
Of course.
Well, once again, thanks to John Redding for taking the time to sit down with us and giving us his insight. I want to invite you all to follow Rec Poker on Twitter at Rec Poker. You can also join the Facebook group Rec Poker. There is a Rec Poker page out on Facebook as well, but I really use the group more than anything else, so we're going to get rid of that page. So really look for the Rec Poker group and share your thoughts and insights out there as well. It's always fun to share. We are starting a virtual book club as well. studying one of Jonathan Little's books. So if you want to be part of that, shoot me an email, stevefredlund@gmail.com, or get a hold of me through Twitter or Facebook if you want to be part of that. We're just having people read chapters and submit their thoughts, and then we'll compile those and we'll make those into a Rec Poker podcast sometime probably late summer, early fall by the time that gets released. But we are in the process of doing the book study now. So if you want to be part of that, reach out and do that. Otherwise, thanks to the Free Poker Network and thanks to all of you, and we will catch you next time.